All right, guys, we're live. Thanks for chilling with us. I think this is actually the last session of the day. But I hope you've been having an amazing conference so far. We are going to be discussing something that is, I think, top of mind for everyone. It's been in the news, high record rates of unemployment, like all over the world. People are thinking about, oh, like, should I learn something? Should I change my career? Should I change my job? And that's the top of mind. Employers are, I mean, layoffs are really on the high, and are like thinking, how do I again survive this period and really position myself for what comes next? And so we're going to be discussing that the future of work and new approaches to skill development. I would not be an expert in this field. So I'm an employee. So I'm someone's. I have an employer. So to do this justice, I've kind of like put together a panel of people who I believe have the expertise, the experience in actually tackling this problem. So I'll just say their names, but then I'll give them the hand over to them to actually like introduce themselves, what they do, and again we'll just jump into a couple of discussion points. And then at the end, we'll have question and answers. So if you have any questions, please put it in the chat. I see we have about 100 people, 163 people right now online. So please keep the questions coming. I will definitely take note of them, and then we can actually like and ask the panelists as well. If you have your questions, particularly for a panelist member, please do write their name as well in your questions. So who do we have on the call? Who do we have online? We have Eyitayo Ogunmola of Utiva. We have Bridget. I'm going to try to say that surname without like messing it up. Boakye?
Bridget Boakye.
Boakye, okay. Thanks. So Bridget Boakye of TalentsInAfrica. And then joining us shortly will be Femi Longe for Qiesto. So I think my first question for you guys, we can start with Bridget and then Tayo, is just tell us just about yourself, what you do, and particularly how COVID-19 or like what the pandemic doing, how that's actually affected your work. So let's start with Bridget and then go to Tayo.
All right. Thank you so much, Nubi, for putting together this panel, for inviting me to join. Tayo and I actually met at Oxford last year, so it's a pleasure to be on the panel with him at this time. Hello to all 163 people here in the conference. This is really exciting. Thank you so much, Ngozi, for organizing this. So my name is Bridget Boakye. I am a Ghanaian. So Nubi, I don't fault you for messing up my last name. Yes, so I was raised in the US, but I moved back to Ghana about 4.5 years ago, where I co-founded a startup called TalentsInAfrica. And our goal is to use AI to accelerate the deployment of human capital on the continent. Just last year, I finished a program in data science. So now I am a trained data scientist myself. And, you know, alongside my entrepreneurial endeavors, I like to use data science to tell stories. So when we talk about the future of work at this time, I think globally, as you mentioned, Nubi, we're seeing tremendous kind of upheaval in the labor market, where we have record numbers of unemployment, even in more developed countries, right, like the United States. When we think about Africa, where almost 80% of the employment is in the informal sector, perhaps what we may not see initially are huge unemployment numbers, right? So the US is reporting some 30 million job losses every week. We don't have that kind of data on the African market because most of the work is informal. But we do know that there are a lot of constraints in the market. The market is being the labor market on the continent is really being strained because some of the major employers are no longer active. So I'll just give two, and then I'll let the other panelists kind of speak. So two of kind of the larger sector employers who on the formal sector side who have kind of decreased employment would be in oil and gas, right? We've seen oil prices in the last month just tank. So being based in Ghana, we've seen employers in the oil and gas industry kind of just lay off people in record numbers. And then the second one would be tourism. Being Ghanaian, last year, Ghana brought in almost $2 billion from its year of return efforts, and tourism outside of mining and some of these manufacturing industries employs the most amount of people across the continent. So definitely in those two sectors where we do have numbers, we know that there's been a huge disruption when it comes to COVID-19.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. Yeah, I mean, really, definitely. I mean, one thing that definitely is I can agree with is just we don't know the sheer scale of this because of lack of data, but at the same time, we should be. I think there are signals as to like, okay, here's what happened in the different industries. The scale of it is hard to tell, but I hope at least we can actually like walk off those signals to start thinking about remediations and all. Tayo, over to you. So, yourself, what you do, and how has COVID-19 perhaps affected you, changed how you work, changed how you do business?
Yeah, so thank you. Mic check. Let me just know if you can hear me well. Okay, good. So Tayo, that's my name. Bridget, it's really nice to see you again. Kay has been a friend forever and also a mentor. So my name is Tayo. I've been in this space for 6 years, traditionally as a tech entrepreneur for the past 2 years. Originally from Nigeria, of course. I've had the opportunity to live and work, in 6 different countries. And currently I lead, Utiva, and the type of the work that we do actually cuts across about 9 different cities now, or 9 different states in Nigeria. So as a background, Utiva primarily uses technology and technologies of different kinds, that some of them are powered by data and some of them are just traditional, video-based learning platforms to fast track and also customize people's experience when it comes to learning premium tech skills. Priority on data science, artificial intelligence, programming, product design, and those type of premium digital tech skills. So in terms of the work that we do and how COVID-19 has some sort of affected the work that we do. To be honest with you, this is a very interesting and also challenging time. Challenging because for a company like Utiva, most of the clients and most of the customers, I'm kind of hearing myself back. I don't know if it's from my end.
Seems clear for me.
Yeah, is it okay?
Now,
yeah.
Okay, good. It just started happening. Okay, so when you think about the kind of work that we do at Utiva, most of the customers and also the clients that we some sort of serve. So I don't know why this is happening again. I just getting to hear myself again and again and again.
Hi, you may have another browser open. So
no, unfortunately I don't. Yeah.
And are you using Safari?
No, I'm using Google Chrome.
Oh, wow.
I mean, it's okay now. It looks like it's fine now, but it's just
those are all my troubles. Okay.
Okay. So, I mean, when you think about the work that we do at Utiva, most of our customers and also the clients that we serve are kind of experiencing a very tough time now. So in some way, it cascades, back to the dynamics of the business that we do. Interestingly for us, we are trying to adapt, strongly and also reinvent our value delivery models and also make sure that we are capturing value back as an organization. So we recently just launched 2 more new digital schools. We're increasing our staff strength by almost 25% because the demand is increasing on some sides and also the demand is decreasing on some other hands. So during the shutdown, we also expanded our business to 6 more states in Nigeria because we some sort of have the need for us to, serve the kind of young people that we want to make sure that we are providing values to. So it's a very interesting time, I must say, and we're also looking to also learn as an organization to see how we can also reinvent ourselves and position ourselves for the new dynamics.
Awesome. I see a few folks asking a few questions. So, like on the call, we have Bridget from TalentsInAfrica. She's based in Ghana. We have Eyitayo from Utiva. I think currently it's based in the States, but Utiva I think currently serves, like I said, nine states across Nigeria. I'm based in Dublin. My name is Nubi Kayode, and then Femi Longe will be joining us shortly. So if you have any questions directly at these people, you can write their name and the questions. I will take a note of that, and we can spend a few minutes at the end of the session to answer those questions. So let's jump to a natural reaction. So a pandemic happens, there's always that need to actually like react. And so I'm just curious to hear from you. So like, what are some pitfalls like from the employer, like again, an employee point of view, that could actually like that should be taken account, which be actually taken account of. What are like pretty much like what is the wrong way to think about again skills, think about jobs, think about like labor, think about like again human capital in this scenario with what is going on right now, and so just again help people avoid going down that line. Anyone wants to take a stab at that?
I mean, yeah, Bridget. So I'm happy to do that. But it's quite unfortunate that I'm just hearing that background noise and it's coming back and again. So I don't know why that is happening, but I would just assume that it's okay.
Hi, Femi.
Femi's
Sorry about that.
Yeah, no worries.
So,
perhaps before we go into that, perhaps Femi, you want to like take a stab at the first question. The first question is just talking about who you are, what you do, and how COVID-19 or what we're going through right now might have actually impacted or has an effect or perhaps changed how you're actually doing what you do.
Okay. Sorry, I came in. I had problems with technology getting in. My name is Femi Longe. I'm Nigerian. About 9 years ago, I co-founded a social innovation center in Nigeria called the Co-Creation Hub, or CC Hub. There we're driving innovation that changed people's lives, enabling innovators to get ideas off the ground. For the last 2-3 years, an issue has been at the back of my mind, which is the point of the whole conversation today, which is how do we tackle the problem with jobs in Africa at scale? And so a year and a half ago, I took a sabbatical to go back to school, think more about this and think about a path forward, a way in which I could devote my time to it. And so at the start of the year, announced Qiesto, which is the platform that we're launching in the next couple of weeks. And what we're building is a platform that allows young Africans get access to work experience at scale. There are lots of people playing in the whole skill space. But what we're finding is that the rates at which we're upskilling young Africans is not matching the rate at which we're churning young Africans. So the stats are saying 11 million young Africans go into the job market every year. If you have a program that's reaching 100, 200, which is all good, it all adds up together. But how do we change the conversation and start reaching 1 million, 2 million? And that's what we're trying to do at Qiesto. In terms of how the current lockdown and the current crisis is affecting our work, I think in many ways it's putting very stark the kind of things that we're trying to do. There are certain things that are clear around jobs in the future. They're not going to be tied to a specific location. And I think if there's anything that COVID-19 and the lockdown has emphasized, I think it's actually accelerated remote work. And so the ability to build for young people then becomes critical. At the moment, internships, which are the predominant way in which young people gain experience, are one-to-one. So one organization can only give an internship to one individual at a time, one person experience. What we're trying to do is see an instance where one organization's experience can add value to and thousands of young people simultaneously. And more and more, what we see right now, because for the last 2 months, in any country that has been locked down in the last 1 month, 2 months, internships have not happened, which means skills have not been transferred, or at least not in the way in which it's done at the moment. And so more and more, it's emphasizing the need to be able to change the way internships are done, to change the way you can democratize skill development, which is what we're trying to do.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing that. Before you got on the call, there was Bridget was talking about how like there's kind of like lacking data to like even show how big or massive these issues are. There are signals, and we can definitely work off that. And I think that's one where it's even hard to get even there. Like how many internships have not actually like happened as a result of this. So hopefully there's there is something there to look into. So yeah, before you joined, but Eyitayo was actually going to talk about like pitfalls, because we were saying, like I was saying, it's very easy for one to default to a reaction of like, oh, we're in a pandemic, let me start like just running in this direction. I see everybody running that direction, and then just like run with them as a natural instinct. And we're also wondering, what are the like pitfalls that we, employers or people like looking into like new roles, new jobs, building skills. What are those pitfalls, again, as a natural reaction to a pandemic that they should actually be looking out for? And yeah, I think Eyitayo was about to take a step at that.
I mean, so what I have seen as a common theme, and I'm still hearing the same background noise, and it's becoming very, very, very disturbing. So what we have seen as a common theme, I don't know, Kate, can you hear the same background noise I'm hearing? Bridget, can you hear the same thing?
No.
Why we're not speaking?
Yeah.
I guess we'll unmute and let's see.
I'm not totally sure. Okay, I think it's way better now from my hand. Okay, I see where the problem is. Okay, so what I've seen as a common theme from what Bridget just mentioned is the fact that we need to accelerate premium tech skill training, across board. And Bridget is using artificial intelligence to some sort of like, understand the data and also, build new models to do that. And also Femi is also deploying what we have started deploying, which is quite very interesting, because I mean, business leaders are beginning to do what is very important right now in that space, which is how do we move from just training to providing real life experience. So we launched something called Virternship, from the word virtual internship, working with different companies right now in the US. 13 different companies have subscribed into that, providing us with business challenges and business cases, so that when we train students in the data science space, programming, they can jump on those projects, and that's where they are moving quickly from being junior to senior. Because you understand that what it really means to move from being a junior developer to senior developer is not the training, but the real life experience that you're engaging with. So that's quite very fascinating, Femi. So back to the conversation on the pitfall. The interesting thing about that question is, today I interact with more than 102 different companies that are within the Utiva inner circle ecosystem. And one of the major things that I see is that there's a common understanding of the common mistake that everyone is some sort of making. And the first one, I would classify that as a prudence, pitfall. The second, I would call it the knowledge economy pitfall. And also, what should I call the third one? The temporal, reactivity. One major challenge is every company right now is trying to save every dollar and also saving Naira. And at the moment, they don't mind, losing the best of their talent, just to stay afloat. And the problem with that is that when you lose the best of your human capital, you become less competitive. Smarter companies are understanding that, so they are looking for cheaper and most effective way to upskill the talent within, their pool. But the problem with the knowledge ecosystem is, by the time we are out of the COVID-19 shutdown, I can tell you for a fact that organizations with the best talent are the ones that will be able to accelerate faster and capture the opportunities in that space. And one of the things that we have seen of recent, I had a call with a major fintech company in Nigeria, which is a client to Utiva, and they were willing to downsize and lose about 100 of their sales team. And I told them for a fact that it's okay to be temporal at the moment because you want to stay afloat. But the reality is that at the end of COVID-19 shutdown, you will see other new fintech companies that are coming up, and they will capture the new opportunities because there is a talent gap that everyone is going to experience. So as a call to every organization that is out there, as much as it's okay to want to downsize, you want to be very strategic with not losing the best of your human capital. The last point that I want us to think about is, as we are moving away from the shutdown and we are getting back to work, the temporal reactivity, we're all going to wake up to the reality that it is okay to navigate today, but the future of work is majorly about not just about the global trends, but the future of work is about the challenges that Africa has today, and how we are able to navigate around that problem. So for business leaders and organizations that are looking to play around and maneuver just to stay afloat and all that, the biggest call would be, let us try as much as possible to understand that humans or people drive change, and change drive ultimate the result that we want to see, right?
I'll just flip the switch a little bit here and say, okay, yes, we've. I think I saw Femi and Bridget nodding frantically to your points there, and I'm just wondering, like the last point you said there, like there is the tendency to actually like global trends. Oh, remote is a new thing. Everybody's going remote. Everybody's having distributed work and all. And perhaps I'll like channel this question to you, Bridget. Everybody's doing remote work. Everybody's doing all of these fancy things. Right before the call, we're talking about like again infrastructural issues. And Eyitayo said that there are real issues on the ground that would affect that transition to the future of work. And my question is like, has COVID-19 just decelerated the realities of going to that future of work, or really accelerated it? Because like again, the reality is like, oh, we need infrastructure to make this happen. So are we now like more like aware of this and like, oh, okay, maybe this is not really a future, like the future work is still far in the future? Or do you think this is more like okay, we're forced to identify this, and then we are forced to actually again move faster towards our future of work, again factoring the realities of what we have right now on the continent?
Yeah, so when I think about that, now I'm echoing. I don't know if everyone else can also mute themselves so that I awesome. So when I think about that question, I think about it in two ways, right? I definitely think there are industries that are accelerating towards the future of work on the continent. Usually when we talk about the future of work in Africa, we're talking about digital or remote work, right? And we're talking about people doing work through the cloud, online, or whatever that may be. And some of the challenges that we always identify are electricity, access to data, and also the cost of data. We were talking about this with Ngozi, connectivity issues. People can't stay online all day. There are so many challenges in that space. But I do think that there are industries that are still moving towards that. Why? Because last year, according to the data, we saw about 40% of the whole African continent, let's say of 1.3 billion people, access the internet in 2019. So that's not, on a global scale, Africa is still behind in terms of access to internet. But when we think about it on just the continent level, we're seeing an acceleration towards digital that we haven't seen ever. So I think when employers think about the future of work, usually we kind of fall back on, okay, government needs to make sure we get electricity, government needs to make sure we get data, all of these things. But I do think that some of the infrastructure is in place for companies to take advantage of it. Now, if we take away kind of the blame factors from like, our infrastructure not being in place, what we actually see is the second reason that kind of, diminishes the returns to remote work on the continent. It's actually lack of employer readiness. A lot of employers don't have workflow systems that allow them to engage your workers in remote work, right? So people are home. There's no one monitoring. We've gotten to the stage where, they don't really know what to do. They don't know how they're being held accountable. They don't know how to work from one process to the next, right? So I think when we think about the future of work, yes, some companies are going to accelerate towards that very quickly on the continent, particularly telcos who are doing really well now. Like MTN reported in Ghana some extreme revenues from Momo, from people on the internet. So some people are doing well, and we're going to see them uptick their employees in remote work. But then there are certain categories of industries that I think will still struggle with that, primarily because they don't have the large infrastructure or the large kind of revenue base to support remote work, to give their workers, let's say, data credits, data stipends, etc. And I think that's where we can engage the public sector in helping to support that transition. But as we can see, there are tremendous benefits to remote work, especially in conditions like this. And, as we think about COVID and we think about, will we have a second wave, a third wave? I think employers need to start thinking strategically about making that switch, even on the continent.
Thank you so much for that. I saw Femi just here, so I'll loop him in to actually add his own thoughts as well. Are we? I think you mentioned a few winners and losers, like again as like this future of work. You also mentioned a few things around some gaps that are beyond infrastructure. So like again, processes and things like that. Yeah, I think Femi could add a few things to that. Yeah.
So I guess if I may add, I don't think the future of work is just, oh, we're all going to work remote. I think what we define as a job in and of itself is going to change. And some of the data, some of the stats we're seeing right now are going to accelerate that. So back in our parents' days, it was common you enter one job once you leave the university and you retire in that same company somewhere up the career ladder. That's changed in current generation. There's lots of hopping between companies. I think where we're going to in future is that whole idea of I have a job in one organization full time is going to change. I don't think it's going to go completely to the other end of pendulum to everybody is in the gig economy. I think you're going to have somewhere in between. So it's not going to be everybody is now an Uber driver, but you're going to see lots of more portfolio careers where I'm doing something that I'm particularly good at, but I'm doing it simultaneously. I'm adding value simultaneously to multiple organizations. And organizations too are going to change the way in which they hire and consider the people that they work with. And if there's anything, I think the moment right now, if you look at the numbers of job losses that have happened in the US, and we don't know the full stats on the continent, but I know they're also high on the continent, it's going to force a lot of very highly skilled people back into the workforce. So those people will not find equivalent jobs by the time this whole crisis is gone, because the dynamics of the environment has changed. Organizations are also now more, that whole excuse of you can't work remote because we're not optimized for it is now gone through the door, because they are now forced to change their systems to enable that kind of working. And when they consider savings for things like pension, for things like all the benefits that come with employing people, they're going to be more flexible now in accepting other kinds of arrangements. So I actually see that in many ways, this is forcing lots of conversations that will have taken much longer to have to actually happen right now. Because if this was a problem that was isolated in one part of the world, then probably it wouldn't have such a dramatic effect. But everybody is feeling it in every country in the world right now, across all industries. And right now, you're getting more employers who are thinking, okay, if we go through this curve, what if something like this or worse than this happens in the future? Will we be prepared and resilient and able to go through that again? And that's going to change, and that's going to change the whole dynamics around work.
Fred, really well said there. Let's just do a quick skill audit here. On their minds, this has happened right now. Like, where are the opportunities going to be? Where are the jobs going to be? Where should I be looking? Where should I be actually? What skills should I be developing? I know Qiesto, for example, you're saying you want people to actually use experience to actually prove that they can actually do certain works, and they're thinking, how do I go about that? Bridget also said that like the SME sector is losing a lot of jobs as well. Like, what are those gaps? So I'm just curious to see, okay, like again, based on what is happening right now, I can just go do a quick round the room. Based on what you're seeing, based on what your forecast is, what are those like skills, industry spaces that people should actually be looking at as to like in the future of work here, where the opportunity bountiful and you developing yourself. I'll talk about the how to develop yourself, but again, what industry should you be aware of and looking at right now? Let's start with Bridget, and then we go to Tayo, and then Femi.
So I'm reading the comments in the chat, and they're making me smile because it looks like our audience has a lot of good thoughts. Nubi, if you don't mind muting yourself, I'm still hearing my question in the background. So thank you so much. So I see that, Daniel in the chat has mentioned cloud computing data. I 100% support that. I think traditionally, like I said, some of the players who are winning now are some of the players I think are going to fare out strongly down the line. So industries where you can look for employment would be places like The telcos, they seem to be doing really well at this time. You can also look into the financial sectors, right? Because people are still banking at astronomical rates because, money needs to be transacted, people need to be fed. So I definitely think there are opportunities in those two traditional industries. But as Daniel's saying, some of the up and coming industries like data science, which Tayo is really working to upskill the continent on. I know Femi is also doing some upskilling work. So some of the new industries, data, cloud, IT, those are some of the opportunities that I believe are abundantly available, right? But then I know some people think, well, what if I don't want to be on that side? What opportunities are there for me if I don't want to be in tech? I definitely think there's a need for people who bridge the gap between tech and, let's say, the public domain, right? Can you write? Can you speak? Because what we've seen is in a lot of technical fields, we don't have people to convey information externally, right? So some of the fields that we traditionally do not think as technical actually need a lot of these conveyors to be able to relay information. So marketing, sales. So I definitely think there are opportunities in that space that can continue to be explored. I definitely think the hardest hit sectors will definitely be entertainment, clubbing, concerts. For the next 2 years, I don't see much of that going on. We're going to have clubs that are 20 people for now, so they can't hire that many people. Restaurants are also perhaps going to struggle a bit more, but that's why I think, to Femi's point about some of the gig opportunities, we'll see a lot more opportunities for delivery. We'll see a lot more opportunities for, let's say, supermarket, deliveries. Can you transport goods from the supermarket to someone's home, for example? So I think it's depending on where you want to be, whether you want to be highly technical or not. Those are some of the industries that will be moving at this time.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, I see logistics actually in the chat as well, but from Ahmed. So let's go to you, Tayo. What do you think? What spaces, what industries, what skills, talents, jobs should people be looking at just as we go into this new future of work? Hello, Tayo?
We can't hear you.
We can't hear you, Tayo. Just going. Hey, Tayo, can you hear us? Oh, wow. Hello, Tayo. Okay, Femi, let's just.
We didn't hear anything you said.
Mic check.
Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, so start again now.
So I was just saying that the future of work of different economies are going to be totally different from the future of work of Nigeria or of Africa as a continent. Why? Because Africa as a continent has not really captured some values in some climes, in some industries. And personally, I don't see those industries totally go away. What I see is that there will be change of business model. There will be changes in the way, these industries reinvent themselves and reposition themselves. And I was having a conversation with someone today, thinking about restaurants that Bridget just mentioned. It's fascinating that restaurants are beginning to think out of the box of how do we capture more values to ourselves. And what that tells us as, educators, as people that are preparing folks for the future of work, is to think about, the type of skills that individuals need to begin to acquire. Number one, I would say that you need to think about the skills from both the technical standpoint and the non-technical space. So today, for example, digital marketing is kind of very critical. Why? It's very important. However, growth hacking and individual sales, one-on-one sales has not totally gone away. So it's okay to say, the banking is just going to totally go into digital marketing because that's where the future of work is some sort of like tilting towards. However, there we still have a lot, to capture in the space of one-on-one, marketing and one-on-one sales. So as individuals that are looking to develop themselves for the future of work, I would say that the easiest way to think about it is there will be an absolute acceleration into the future. And because there will be an acceleration into the future, you want to prepare yourself, for that future. However, you don't want to lose the opportunities of today, while you're preparing yourself for that future. So there are critical skills today, like Bridget mentioned, communication, sales and marketing, leadership, emotional intelligence, that we ultimately just overlook. I will say that these skills, as soft as they are, will still be around for a longer time. If we all work remotely today, people will be lonely, and there will be need for leaders to jump in and coach people that are feeling isolated. I mean, I do that a lot now for the guys on my team, because people that are walking around humans now are some sort of like working with computers, and I have to be on board, to some sort of like coach people and support people. So we would have leaders in the tech space that would have to do a lot of coaching, a lot of mentoring. That is not the future of work in the US, but that is the future of work where we are today, because as a community, we are not used to isolation. We're used to working with people and being around people. And overnight, we have, I've been in my house now for almost 5 weeks. I haven't stepped out at all. So I'm beginning to feel lonely. I'm beginning to feel tired. I'm beginning to feel very lazy. And there's a need for leaders to jump in and support people like myself. Now, when you think about the trajectory, there are skills today that we really, really need so much in Africa. And one way to think about it is this: most of the companies that are in Nigeria today as a country would have to move from the traditional sector to the tech-driven sector. And what that means is that people would have to be building technology solutions. So we need more programmers, we need more software engineers, we need more product designers, we need product managers to lead those spaces. People are becoming more data-driven, so we need more data scientists, more than before, to jump in that space and support organizations' growth. So I think it's really an exciting time to monetize your skill, as Femi also mentioned. People would be working remotely, and that means that they can now do more than one jobs because they're working remotely, and now they can capture more opportunities for themselves. However, if you're doing 2-3 jobs as an African, then your leadership now needs to come out, because you need to communicate better with the guys that you're serving, which is a major problem in the programming and software development space, in Nigeria today. So I think it's an exciting time. And you can just look at the type of skills that you want to learn. But I can say that the top priority skill, the data, programming, design, product management, we will need a lot of product managers today, when we get into that time. Okay.
Let's say Femi, let's see what your thoughts on that.
Am I to go? Okay.
Yeah.
So I mean, thinking about which industries, I think if you look at the 2 industries that I think probably have this moment. I'm not talking telco. I'm not talking food. I'm actually talking about healthcare and education. The rate at which schools adopted digital technology from K to 12 through to universities at this time, because suddenly systems that were designed for only physical interactions have to suddenly digitize. I think the rate of adoption of those particular industries, which are also very slow industries to adopt change, tell me that there's lots of opportunities that are still around education and healthcare. Back when we were in university, we all used to say anyone that studied biochemistry or microbiology is actually. Right now, biochemists and microbiologists are the guys that are chasing new, faster ways of testing for COVID at scale, vaccine for COVID. So increasingly, as a society, we're going to start respecting those expertise. So I'm talking about bioinformatics, bioengineering, biochemistry, microbiology. I think there's lots of opportunities in those areas that we didn't used to have in the past. If there's something else I've also seen from what's happened in the last few months, is the world's over-reliance on China as the source of manufacturing, and the pitfall that can happen when your source of manufacturing is the source of the problem that you're dealing with. So entire supply chains across the world were fractured because suddenly Chinese companies could not manufacture, or countries were shutting their borders to China. I think what that's going to do as well after this crisis ends is there's going to be a change in the way supply chains are done in the world to now more distributed. So while we think manufacturing is losing at the moment, there's actually going to be more manufacturing because countries are going to want to be able to bring lots of things that they had to rely on global supply chains to closer. And with that's going to come new opportunities as well, because those manufacturing chains will not be going the old way. And right in there, you're looking at the skills that are going to be necessary to drive that. In terms of key skills, even though I've worked quite a bit in tech and I'm doing stuff around tech, I think at certain levels, tech skills and core tech skills are also overrated at this time. I think there are more fundamental skills that we need that we struggle with. I think things as simple, Tayo mentioned communication. Things as simple as being able to study a problem and actually come up with a solution that is creative. Being able to work with other people. Being able to clearly communicate your thoughts and your concepts. I think these are very fundamental at the core skill, that irrespective of whichever vertical you decide to express yourself in, those skills are increasingly going to be more important. And I think because I think there's going to be lots of fluid careers. It's going to be less of, I'm a data scientist and this is what I'm doing for the next 20 years. At some point in the future, AI is going to eat up data science. And at that stage, you will need to be able to shift. And so it's those core fundamental skills that allow you to be able to play across different verticals that I think are going to be the strongest skills that people need to be focusing on.
Thanks so much. It's crazy we are at time. I can't imagine that time has flown that fast. I hope we can continue this conversation, perhaps online somewhere. We'll figure it out, LinkedIn or something. I would like to just do a last round the room. I guess one thing you want to actually just tell people to go away with as to again the future of work, how you're thinking of the future of work, how people should actually approach. We said there's a need for a new approach to actually skill acquisitions and skill development, and what would be your advice for folks that have tuned in today? We can start with Femi, go to Tayo, and then we end with Bridget.
If there's one thing I'll leave people with, it would be that stop thinking about job as a role. I'm in HR, I'm in marketing, I'm in tech. What the world is looking for is people that can add value around the specific verticals. But some of those verticals do not even exist yet. A few years ago, there was no such thing as social media manager or influencer, or all the roles that we have right now, or even data scientists. The ones that are going to be around in 5 years' time, no one knows. Anyone that tells you they know, ask them where their crystal ball is. So what you need is the ability to have your button on the trend and be able to unlearn and relearn as quickly as possible. Unlearn and relearn. People who get stuck on, I am one thing, I studied law, and so I have to work in this area for the rest of my life, are the ones that lose out, especially when we have big upheavals like we have right now. So your ability to unlearn and relearn what is going to make you relevant part-time is going to be the most important skill that you would have. And if there's one thing you remember from this session, let it be that. Thank you.
And relearn to keep your pulse on the trend, and don't get stuck in one way of doing things or in one skill. Thanks for sharing that, Femi. Let's go on to Tayo.
Yeah, I think that's the same theme that I would also like to emphasize. I don't know if you can hear me now. Okay, yeah, so that's like the same thing that I would also like to emphasize. It's quite a very fascinating and interesting time. And one of the things that we need to all take out of these, period, and also from this conversation is the lifespan of tech skills are, reducing by the day, and the lifespan of non-tech skills that are very valuable are also expanding and increasing. So there is a need for us to have people that are emotionally intelligent, people that have got good leadership, people that can communicate better, people that can relate with others. Sales is a very important skill for everyone. Or literally everyone is selling right now on my team, because you have to sell, we have to make money. So the dynamics of jobs are changing, and you need to be able to learn a new skill, deploy that skill to whatever you're doing, and also unlearn the whole skill. And I also want to some sort of like reinforce what Femi mentioned, which is, I think it's also very valuable. Think outside of roles today. It's okay to say you are a chief executive, but now I'm working from home for almost 5 months, and I'm wondering, am I still the chief executive? Where is my office exactly? It's like every one of us, we are just stuck in front of our computers. So the days of putting on tie and getting into the office with a nice bag and everyone is saying the CEO is around is over. The CEO now is the guy who sits down behind the computer and talks to you. And, this new dynamics should open our minds to that new reality, that we are moving out of the days of roles and responsibilities, the days of roles and responsibilities to the days of flexibility. We need to be very flexible. You need to have that capacity to learn very fast and, unlearn. So most importantly, I would mention that the more skills that you're able to garner right now will some sort of determines your ability to be flexible in different areas. So in the tech space, people that are just core software engineers also need to move a little bit into product design, also need to understand, product management, because people don't want to hire you as a software engineer, then also hire a product manager to be micromanaging you. So you need to be able to offer multiple values to your employers. I think we're moving away, just like someone also mentioned on the chat box, we are moving away from roles, we're moving to flexibility and more to, responsibilities. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing that, Tayo. And let's, Bridget, bring it on. Let's take it on.
So I think Femi and Tayo have very, succinctly described what the future of work is going to look like on the employee side. So I won't harper much on that. I agree with the whole sentiment of learning and relearning. But I think on the employer side, part of what we need to think about is then in the case where we have people, organizing their portfolios around projects, how do you quantify and value people's work and contribution to your company, right? So Tayo's talking about having a multitude of skills for employers. Are they going to be paying for those multitude of skills, and how are they going to quantify that? So I think as we think about, Tayo's laughing, you want a project manager and a software programmer in one. Can you really afford that? Those are some of the questions that I think about as we go forward is, I know generally, I think we have a general sentiment that we have to learn faster. We have to be open, creative, innovative problem solvers for the employees. But what does it mean when you're really hiring someone to come and fulfill a role for you? I don't have the answers yet, Nubi, but it's definitely something that I'm continuing to think about.
Yeah, I think it's always great to leave a discussion with more questions and answers. So let's keep thinking about those things and finding ways to solve them. It's been really great having a conversation with you guys. We'll keep it going. But thank you so much for being on the panel. Thank you so much for everyone who's actually listening and added their points in the chat as well. I'll add it over to Ngozi to close off. Thanks, guys.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, everyone.